Good evening, guys.
John.
Big John here. Obviously, I've still not got a camera yet, but I will be getting one. It's not that I've changed my face or anything, or I'm a woman, a man dressed as a woman, nothing like that. But I am here. Just please look at our description and please join our website. I will get the website address up. We're just in the midst of a few changes to the website, so bear with us. And again, if you can donate or even join our party, that would be great. We're doing a bit of a campaign, starting a campaign in the Wirral this week, delivering 5,000 leaflets that your donations and sub money has paid for already. The leaflets are in the Wirral and we start this week. Also, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming on. Please share the stream and everything. A few names I haven't seen there. Good evening, Toffee. Good evening there, sir. I hope you're all right. Jojo, Gizmo, Big Vinny, Claire, and Serena. And I'll leave it on. Over to you, Paul.
Right, tonight we're going to talk about something really important. The way they clamp down on dissent in this society, the way they use the mass media, they use the police force, they use censorship, they use cancelling, and we're going to be looking at that. They use lawfare, what's happening to Donald Trump at the moment. Donald Trump is facing 91 felonies. That's 91 indictments for crime, and he's done nothing wrong. So they can manufacture criminal cases out of fresh air. This is called lawfare. It's been pioneered by a guy called Norm Eisen, American Jew, to undermine any opposition to the Democrat Party. Anyone who challenges the Democrat Party faces legal cases to tie them up, to tie up their finances. When I was in the BNP, we saw this. Nick Griffin and Mark Collett were accused of racial hatred. They were found not guilty. It was all nonsense, but it tied them up. It threatens them. They arrest people. I've been arrested 3 times. I myself have faced 3 court cases. Cost a lot of money. You're under pressure. You get your house raided by the police, and they're all fabricated charges. And it's all about limiting free speech. Hate speech just means they hate to hear the truth, because the establishment, and this is who we're up against, they produce a narrative to explain things. This narrative was there during COVID. It's there for the Ukraine now. It's there about the great replacement in immigration. But the narrative is full of holes. It's a pack of lies. And when any truth speaker attempts to show the falsehoods in these narratives, they have ways and means to prevent you from doing that. They don't want to enter into dialogue. You see, traditionally in this country, we've lived in a democracy, and we believe that we have free speech, that we can develop our own opinions and express them. We have that liberty. That's been fundamental to Western civilization for centuries. That's what we fought for. That's what our forefathers fought for. That's what gives us dignity as people. But they've used so many means, and we're going to explore that tonight, to undermine our liberties, to deny us free speech. And we're on YouTube now. We're walking on eggshells. We could say one thing wrong and they'll take the video off. You understand what pressure you're on if you want to speak free speech. And of course, we belong to a political party, the National Housing Party of the UK. People are scared to join political parties that challenge the status quo because they can lose their job. They can, face harassment, not only from the police, but from other members of society. They have so many ways of labeling us with these politically correct terms to prevent us just expressing what's going on. We can no longer notice that we are being overwhelmed by mass immigration. Somehow the R word is kicked in, and we've crossed a red line simply for noticing the way our society is being destroyed through a replacement immigration. And we have to speak out on this. Otherwise, we're just going to disappear. They're just going to push us aside. We're being fleeced on a huge scale. Talked about Ukraine. They're still sending billions to the Ukraine to fight a war that we have no interest in. It's not a war against us, and they fabricate a whole narrative saying that Putin wants to come to take over London and stuff. It's all absolutely insane. I mean, they've used these narratives against Gaddafi, against the Serbians, against the Syrians. You know, that if we don't go and destroy them in their own countries, they'll come and destroy us. And when you point out that this is totally absurd, you're excluded. This is what the exclusion of Russell Brand is all about. Because Russell Brand has been outspoken on the Ukraine war. This is why Tucker Carlson was sacked from Fox News. I'm not talking here hypothetically. People lose their livelihoods. They lose their platforms. Deplatforming is another way. I mean, I was watching last night a video of David Icke. Now, David Icke has unique insights and he's got his own style and his own views. Why was he deplatformed? Why was he excluded from the mainstream? Why can't he post his videos on YouTube? Is it to protect you, the vulnerable listener? You cannot comprehend. You don't want to be your mind brainwashed by David Icke. No, it's not about protecting you at all. It's about protecting them. It's about protecting the elite who run the world. I mean, David Icke talks about secret societies. He talks about bloodlines. And these things exist. I mean, I could mention now a secret society called B'nai B'rith. It's the most powerful organization in the world, the Jewish Freemasons. But nobody knows they even exist. And you're not allowed to explain their nature of how they operate, the scale of their operations, how they finance both sides of the political debate and control both sides. Because this is what they're actually doing now, is shutting down democracy by creating uni-parties. The Conservatives, the Liberal Con, Conservatives, Labour, Liberals have all got the same ideology. They're all receiving orders from the World Economic Forum, which itself is informed by the United Nations. They're imposing agendas on the people, and the people can't even debate these agendas or challenge them. And when parties arise, like the Alternative for Deutschland, suddenly Tino Schruppala, who's the co-chair of the AfD, finds that his bank account is closed, finds that his mail has been interfered with, finds that it's being shadowed by the German secret police. I mean, I was in the BNP in the 2008 and 9 when they were actually winning seats in the London Assembly, winning seats in the European Parliament. And then they come down on us like a ton of bricks, the state. They confiscated our newspapers, shut our bank accounts, raided our homes. I thought we lived in a democracy. All I'm doing is expressing a political opinion. All I'm doing is exercising my free speech, which is protected supposedly in law. But no, there was no protection. When the state decide to clamp down on you, they come on you like a ton of bricks. And of course, there was the 2020 election in America. It was 45. That's the word they use. For the first time, when I've ever observed an election, I noticed that the count was stopped. The counting was actually stopped. I don't know. Nobody still knows who gave the order. People think it was Jill Biden, actually. But in key marginal states, the counting was stopped. And then the people who were supervising the count were sent home. And these vans started to appear with huge amounts of unverified ballots, which were all virtually 100% for Joe Biden. And suddenly Biden, who was behind in all the key states to Trump was winning that election. In fact, in my opinion, he'd already won it. But suddenly all these ballots allowed Joe Biden to take the lead. It was absolutely bizarre. So it was challenged in court. And all the court cases were thrown out. Not because they checked the verification of the ballots, not because they went through the whole process. No, the court cases were thrown out because the plaintiffs was deemed to have insufficient standing, which is the legal procedure, because the judiciary went in on the fortification of the election. And we're facing this over and over again in country after country, We're facing a manipulation of the democratic process. We hopefully will get a fair vote in 2024. I don't believe we will. I believe the Democrats, it's instinctive for them now to cheat, and they'll do everything they can to. I mean, they're already doing it, aren't they? I mean, who are these women who are accusing Trump of all these crimes? The people who, the crazy women who were elected thanks to Soros's millions. Soros bought their elections. And we've got to challenge all this nonsense. But when you do challenge it, you face opposition. This is the point I'm making. As I say, we're on YouTube now and we're allowed to discuss this. But we've got to watch what we say. We've got to be very careful. We're walking on eggshells. If you were on the left, you could say anything. You can insult anybody on the right, say anything you want. There's no consequence. If you're a patriot and a nationalist, you've got to watch yourself. Or you'll get not only, I mean, at the moment, we've got a Tory government. When the last Labour government was in, I faced, well, even in 2017, I faced police harassment for simply expressing reasonable opinions. I faced court cases. It's obscene. It's not fair. It's not fair what's going on. And it's not fair, but it goes well beyond that. And I'll discuss that shortly. I want to talk about how people have submitted to the Stockholm syndrome and how people are being constantly gaslighted by the media to believe false narratives. There's a hell of a, we've got to challenge this whole way they are channeling people's perceptions and the falsehoods that are holding back our nation from rising up and stopping the destruction of our country. Pat?
Thanks, Paul. So hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you to, we had 2 members join yesterday. Hello to them if they're watching, 2 new members. And hello to everyone on Rumble. We're trying to get a Rumble channel going. The link's in the chat on YouTube. If you want to go and subscribe to it, would be very helpful for our party if you could go and subscribe to the Rumble channel. Yes, Paul, I've got to be honest, I'm not that prepared for this particular discussion, but I will give my analysis anyway, because we were supposed to be talking about something else a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to bring this into the conversation. And it was the 30th anniversary of Derek Beacon's victory, the first seat the BNP ever won in Isle of Dogs in East London. And I'm not sure what the exact year it was, but that was the first.
1993, Pat.
93. I thought it was 96. It's 1993, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to work out: is it worse now for the censorship, or was it worse back in the BNP days at their height? Because obviously that was their first seat, what they won. And then it took a while until they really got a momentum going. Like you said, 2007, 2008, 2009 was the height. And the way the state stopped them, they had to literally promote another political party to stop them, and they promoted Nigel Farage. And that is how they stopped it. Because I remember around that time, because we had the internet, and this kind of indicated that now we've got the internet, we've got free speech. Everyone can hear the truth, and BNP are going to march to victory. And obviously it didn't happen like that. But like I say, I believe that the way the state stopped the BNP was they used Nigel Farage to do that. Now, the similarities to today, so Farage took control of the patriotic movement, and he more or less gave the whole thing back to the Tories in 2019. And this is why we're so far behind mainland Europe. I've said it before. We're about 3 or 4 years behind because we had to fight Brexit. Farage took over, stopped the BNP, and the BNP would be in the same position as Marine Le Pen's party now if that didn't happen, if we didn't have to fight Brexit. So now I'm very worried because Reform UK are looking like they're the new tool that the state are going to be using to stop us again, stop the common people regaining control of our nation. And I've said it before, you cannot win a parliamentary seat if you don't have any elected local councillors within that area. And Reform UK seem to think that they're going to win some seats, and it's interesting because they're wrapped up with GB News, Lawrence Fox, Mark Stein, Dan Wootton, Calvin Robinson just been sacked from GB News, and none of them are involved with Reform UK. So Reform UK are kind of the headliner on GB News now, and I'm a bit worried that the masses, the patriotic masses, are going to put a lot of faith in Reform, and everyone just sits back and think, oh, they're gonna win for us, and they're not going to win. They're not going to win one seat in the next. The election's going to be next year. This is the general election, ladies and gentlemen. And Reform UK said they're going to be putting a candidate in every single seat, and they seem to think that anyone with any brains within politics knows they cannot win like that. So it's all up in the air. We've got to focus on local elections, like I always say, like Paul says, like John says, and but this censorship thing is definitely a problem. But especially in Canada, this is my contribution to this show. In Canada, they've literally just brought out a law that every single live streaming podcast platform must register with the Canadian government, and the Canadian government can switch you off at a flick of a switch. So there's no freedom of speech left in Canada. Canada's supposed to be one of the beacons of the West, freedom. This is what everyone died for, to fight for, to this freedom society in the West. And it's getting pretty tight now. But I believe that they know that they've lost control of democracy, like in Germany, the AfD, National Rally in France, Brexit, Trump, and they could go to drastic measures now, and they obviously are in Canada. So I just don't know where it's going to lead. I think there is hope that we could survive and gain victory through the ballot box, but they've already said that they're talking about banning AFD. So for that even to come across the news channels to the UK, for us to hear that's a serious thing that could happen, because Germany, as we all know, what happened in Germany is the reason we've got all these restrictions. And
let me just come in on that, Pat, because the reason we really have got all these restrictions is that the narrative of the ruling elite is very weak. It doesn't sell to the public. They are pushing our replacement every single day. They're bringing in immigrants, third world immigrants, into Europe and into America on a massive scale. I mean, Biden's brought in maybe 6-7 million in just 3 years. I mean, it could be more. It could be nearly 9 million. But that number, that means that something like 40 states in America have got a population of under 9 million. So he's brought in a population of more than 40 states in America. And we're seeing the same in Europe now. I mean, Britain last year had over 1 million gross figure of immigrants coming in. Over 1 million came and settled in this land. First time over 1 million. This year, they reckon I might reach 1.5 million. We all know as we go around our neighborhoods, everything is changing now. The demographic is changing. I've been listening to Joey Owen talking about Liverpool. And what were like white, working class, British areas, traditional, go back centuries, Breck Road, West Derby Road, even the Dingle, they're all being radically transformed into third world areas overnight. It seems like it's overnight. Joe Owen keeps saying, I underestimated how many were coming in. It's now breathtaking. This is a deliberate policy. I mean, the Tories will give the rhetoric that they're trying to control the borders and they're trying to stop the boats. But in fact, they're flying them in and shipping them in and training them in by the hundreds of thousands day after, month after month. They're transforming our country demographically. This is the great replacement. We're going to become a minority in our own country. Nobody would have believed that in the 1980s when the population was over 90% British. Now it's going under 70%, and it's rapidly changing. The same thing is happening in France. In Germany, once Merkel opened the borders, it's been a phenomenal transformation of Germany. And this is a destruction of the indigenous culture. This is a destruction of our security and our safety. This is a destruction of our democracy, because we're not allowed to challenge this. They put all these hate laws into place, and all the hate laws, as I said earlier, a hate law is what they hate hearing the truth. People who speak the truth have to be deplatformed. Now, you talked about UKIP, right? That's a political strategy. They will promote certain political parties over others. But the strategy was much more direct in that pack. They actually attacked the BNP. Nick Griffin was taken to court by the Equalities Commission. The BNP had its newspapers confiscated as they came in. They couldn't print them in this country. The BNP couldn't get a bank account. BNP members were being sacked from their jobs. The police were told, all public sector workers, all the public sector of Britain, which is virtually half the economy, was told anyone who's in the BNP cannot be employed. This is a tyrannical approach. We think we live in a democracy where we can make our decisions based on rational processes, but it's not. They are telling us what we can choose, and they're controlling it all the time.
The thing about this, Paul, is there's a lot of people now, like on GB News, Lawrence Fox, Dan Wood, and all these people who were sticking the boot into the BNP years ago. The Daily Mail is one of the worst ones to do this sort of thing. Russell Brand, he famously targeted Mark Collett with the Nazi brush and the racist brush, deliberately hoping that the world would turn against him. And now it's happened to him. So it's just sad that so many people were kind of going along with what is going along, what's happening now to them. And another big thing is, these 7 politically correct insults, transphobia, anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, sexism, misogynism, and Islamophobia. That's the 7 words that's how they've managed to brainwash the population. If you say anything regarding those 7 subjects, you're taken off the air. You can't speak in public. You can't do this. You can get arrested. There's actual laws, the Equalities Act laws to back it up to literally criminalise you.
Discrimination laws, yeah.
And the population. And that's why, as a party, we're against political correctness, and we don't use these terms of any validity. We try not to, because, if we attack like, for example, I've done a few tweets recently about Sadiq Khan saying he's anti-white. That's the term we prefer to use. Yeah, he's anti-white. It's direct. People know what we're saying, and all in the comments, there's people saying racist, right? And I think, are they calling me that, or are they calling and I had to check their profiles. That's why we shouldn't use it, because it's very misleading. We need to be direct, keep it simple. It's an anti-white agenda and an anti-Christian agenda. Those 2 terms are not politically correct terms, and the psychological war is a big one as well. As long as actually having to stop permanent settlement immigration, that's really important. But also the psychological war is important, Paul.
Yeah, these are all loaded terms, and they've become the magic words to stop any dialogue, any discussion. These are part of the tyranny that we all face. But what you got to realise with the likes of Russell Brand and Nigel Farage, right? The establishment will produce a narrative, and they will push that narrative through the media onto the general public, so that the general public perceives, whether it be the BNP or the AFD or any political party, in a certain way. Now, Russell Brand would go along with that. He'd go along with that narrative. But when it comes to the narrative about COVID, people started to get cold feet. They began to recognize that they didn't want to get the jab. They didn't want to take the vax. And so
Okay.
Yeah, I know I've got to very be careful about this, but I'm just telling what people did. So they challenged the narrative. But now there's a narrative about the Ukraine, which is being pushed from the off. Just as I remember the invasion of Serbia, there was a narrative push from the off that somehow, you know, Milosevic, he was Adolf Hitler, or Putin's Adolf Hitler, or Gaddafi's Adolf Hitler, or Assad's Adolf Hitler. Anyone that they want to demonize. This is what the establishment do. They create a narrative which demonizes somebody, and once they demonize them, then they have the excuse to go and destroy them. Now, they've been demonizing Putin, and they've been demonizing the Russians, and this is why they're financing the war. Not with a few $1 million, no, not with a few $1 billion, but with hundreds of billions of dollars. They're basically bleeding the West dry to finance this war against Russia. And we're not allowed to challenge the narrative that they're producing. Why are we fighting this war in the Donbass? If the people of the Donbass...
Paul, is it true that Grant Shapps has legitimized and finalized that they're going to be putting British troops on the ground in Ukraine? Is there any truth to this?
Grant Shapps, he's Jewish, he's an arch globalist, and he wants to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine, but it won't happen. It won't happen because once they start getting killed, the narrative really does fall to pieces. But the reason Russell Brand has been cancelled is because he's challenged the Ukraine narrative. You see, we're talking here now about psychops, and we're talking about political strategies that are worth trillions of dollars. Trillions. Biggest the UK economy. They make people multimillionaires and billionaires. The provision of arms, the provision of aid, the money gets recycled. The money, I mean, I've just seen recently this guy who was involved in the Bitcoin operation. You know, the young lad in America became a multi-billionaire, and he met Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell said to him, "Look, we're making it easy for you to make money. I want you to finance the never Trumpers in the Republican Party." All this money goes circular, goes around, you see. It gets funneled out to the Ukraine. It comes back into the Democrat Party in America through donations from the people who are building the military equipment, who are making the huge profits. It's all a huge racket. So they've got to maintain the narrative. They can't allow people to challenge them fundamentally on what they're saying. That's why Russell Brand is cancelled. That's why Tucker Carlson went. But what's the next narrative? Okay, you look at as I said earlier, the mass immigration narrative and the use of these magic words like the R word to stop us discussing mass immigration. And we have a situation now, the Stockholm Syndrome. The media, the education system, the political parties have created an atmosphere where the people who are invading us are somehow victims. They're either, you know, asylum seekers, or they're fleeing from persecution, or, you know, they're desperately coming here for their children. You know, they're fleeing. People talk about they're fleeing from homophobia, or they're fleeing from climate change, or whatever. Somehow they're fleeing here because their life's in danger, and we've got an obligation to look after these people. When the exact opposite is the reality. They're coming here and they're putting us in danger. They're coming here and they're carrying out crimes in this country. They're a threat to us. They're not under threat. They're a threat to us, but we're not allowed to articulate this. And because of the Stockholm Syndrome, people are actually on their side. The ordinary British person has got a sympathy for these people. They've been manipulated by the media, because the media excludes voices which challenge the dominant narrative. We emerge here. We emerge as truth speakers. We emerge as people who simply notice what the reality is out there, and we are the threat. People who notice the real world are a threat to these people who are creating endless fictions to warp people's perceptions.
Just to explain to the viewers, Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological kind of state that somebody who's been kidnapped, they kind of make friends with their kidnappers, as a way to deal with the situation, and they become friends with the kidnappers. So we're kind of what Paul's saying is, as a nation, we've been kidnapped by the globalists, and we're just going there. Everyone's just going along with it. What's going on? And
what it means is Stockholm syndrome. This is actually a historical event. Certain people were kidnapped by revolutionary communist terrorists in Stockholm, and after a while, they were actually the terrorists had managed to persuade them that they were actually doing a service by being kidnapped, and they began to support the people who kidnapped them. And when the state tried to rescue them, they didn't want to be rescued. They were actually, I've been totally warped to think that the criminals who'd actually arrested them and denied them freedom were somehow represented their liberation. They were so twisted that the crime against them, they actually were supporting it. It's like, it's a manipulation of the way people perceive reality. They started to believe a fiction. Go on, Pat.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. That's a good story. I didn't know it. Is that the actual story of the Stockholm syndrome? Is that where it came from?
Yeah, yeah.
Kidnapping.
Go on, John.
Sorry, guys. Let me in. You might have thought I'm not here, but I am, guys. But I've been listening. So
I need to go to the toilet anyway. Hold on.
2007, social media. And anyone with any noggin would have known what would be happening in the future when social media first started. Anybody would have known. It was a gimmick. We're all into it. Yes, it's great. I can say anything. We can't say anything. We can't do anything. And before, where they used to cancel just an individual, they can cancel now whole groups of people, whole organizations with just a flick of a switch. So nobody is safe. No organization, no group of people, no nothing. They can shut all your bank accounts down. And I'm sorry, like a lot of things, like 5G and all these microwave radiation, people did say in the first times of social media what was to come, and we laughed them. We laughed them all down the road. It's free speech. I can say anything on here. No, we can't. No, we cannot. We can't say anything as an individual. We can't say anything as a group. A flick of a switch, our bank accounts are withdrawn. Our finances are under scrutiny. Anybody can say it now. Oh, his finances are wrong without any evidence. And then that's it. Your whole business and your finances are ground to a halt until they've done an investigation or whatever. People knew this was coming. People warned us. People warned us of it, and we didn't listen. And now this is the fruits of all that. What's happened has accumulated to now. And Pat was talking about Canada, and even in Europe now, they're trying to get in an anti-migrant hate bill. So you can't talk about the migrants. You can't say it's an invasion. You can't say, oh, this is what they're trying to push through now into the European courts and into our laws, is that we can't criticize anything that the government do. Honestly, it's just a joke. And this is accumulation of them years of people telling us, and we never listened. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing about the Stockholm syndrome. So, me personally, I think UKIP, Heritage, Reform, and Reclaim, those four parties have all got Stockholm syndrome, because we can all see by looking around that we don't need any more immigration settling here permanently. We don't need to give out any more UK passports to foreigners. You just don't need to do it. If anything, we're full up to the brim, right? But those four parties, they can't bring themselves to actually say, no, if you look through their manifestos, they all say, yes, we'll accept points-based immigration and then give full citizenship. We will accept true refugees. It's like, what planet are these people on? And it's Stockholm syndrome, Paul. It must be.
Yeah, I mean, it's total deception, isn't it? Let me say, I believe categorically there are no genuine asylum seekers coming to Britain. They're all basically, they're being pulled here by the benefit system, the freebies that are available for them. I mean, you put a post on your X account. And let's talk about Twitter and X in a minute. But to show that these bogus immigrants are coming in, get priority for social housing over the indigenous population. They go right to the top of the housing queues, and they're being allocated our social housing at a time when people are desperate for housing in this country, young families especially. I mean, the private sector is so expensive, but social housing is being excluded from the British people. There's more than 600,000 foreigners living in our social housing. I mean, basically, they've been given priority. And why hasn't our political parties, kicked off about this and made a noise about it? I remember Mrs. Thatcher made the noise about it in 1979. This is one of the reasons why she got elected. The Tories now are just another branch of the Communist Party. Forget that they're another Liberal Abcom. They're all globalists taking orders from the United Nations to destroy the British state and the British people. But this is what I want to talk about, gaslighting, right? When you point out reality, they use these magic words against you. As Pat said, all these terms like homophobic or racist or anti-Semitic or whatever, they use this to silence you. And it's when you say something like foreigners are receiving our social housing, they will try and gaslight you and say that they're not. Gaslighting is the reality that you can see with your own eyes. They try to convince you that this is not what's actually going on. And so you start to doubt your own perceptions and your own sanity. This is the psychological games they're playing with people. But thankfully, we have Twitter. We have X, as it's called now. And the National Housing Party has, I think, 35,000 people now following you. Really? I've put out tweets. They've got 40,000, 60,000. I mean, they're reaching a lot of people. There's freedom on Twitter, not complete freedom. We know that a lot of people are being deplatformed from Twitter, such as Mark Collett, Tommy Robinson, the guy in America, what's his name, who does the show over there.
Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, a few people in America have been deplatformed from Twitter, but there is still enormous freedom on Twitter. I mean, I've been really surprised what I can say, and that it gets round, it gets reach. You can put things out there and you get thousands of hits. I mean, Pat's put out tweets which have had 500,000 hits. Pat, more than 500,000.
Well, I put out one video once, and it was a Scottish BBC presenter saying that the England women's team was too white, and it got 3 million views.
Wow!
I mean, they've started strangling my account. I mean, I put a tweet out the other day, just asking a question. NATO are starting to move on Serbia because there's friction happening between Kosovo and Serbia. Whose side would you be on? And I've got nearly 35,000 followers, and I got like 2 likes on that tweet. And I know that it would have been more than that. So they're starting to strangle my account. I've heard other people with big followings are complaining about it. And the person running it inside Twitter is a far left globalist now. I don't know the person's name, but that's what
I mean. You put out that tweet about the immigrant family who was given a 4-bedroom house in Birmingham, social housing over the English people have been waiting for years. How many hits did that get?
Nearly 250,000 views.
So I think you've still got a bigger reach than you realise.
Paul, I think it would have been more than that, because this is what I'm trying to say. For that other one, I had 3 million views, and that was when I only had about 12,000 followers. So there's definitely something going on with Twitter. They're not, and YouTube as well. They don't allow nationalist channels to grow because these people are globalists and they see us as a threat. So, who knows what the truth is, but I think they're messing around in Twitter, definitely.
But I've still got to take my hats off to Elon Musk, because he's given us a platform, and he's given, and so many patriots and nationalists are now on that platform. Now, I saw a debate yesterday amongst the left. Should they leave Twitter? Because Elon Musk himself now is speaking against financing the Ukrainian war. He's really being outspoken about it. And so they're saying we should leave Twitter and abandon it. But the other lefties are saying, look, once you leave Twitter, you've left the world, because Twitter's the hub of world debate now. That's what really matters. And we're there where it really matters.
Yeah, so there's quite a few people in the chat who have been on Twitter or are still on Twitter. So we want to ask the chat a question. If you think that Twitter is completely free since Elon Musk has taken over, put a 1 in the chat. If you think they're still restricting people's reach and shadow banning, put 2 in the chat. Just see what people think on that one.
Well, the truth is, in America is red hot now, the political debate. They're a year off the presidential election. Now, this 2024 presidential election in America is going to be something, because if they cheat on this, I think it will lead to the division of America, permanent division. The red states will secede from the Union, and there will be a real fallout in America, because the Americans know that Biden is out to destroy their country. And the people who are in the Democrat Party are absolute lunatics. We've just seen this woman who's become a senator in California to replace Dianne Feinstein, who died. The woman they chose to replace her, she is the first black, lesbian, non-Californian woman to be a senator for California. And the Californians are saying, well, she lives in Maryland. Why does it matter that she's a lesbian? Why does it matter that she's black? What matters is, can she do the job? Is she competent? No, they're just ticking boxes. It's just ideological conformity. That's all they want now, the Democrats in America. And we're going to get the same when Labour take over in this country. Labour are going to put us in this ideological, left-wing, crazy, woke straitjacket. They're going to put us in that in Britain. And we're going to find that all our institutions are being run by people because they're black, lesbian, and peculiar. Not because they can actually do a job. It's absolute insanity. And what same people are rising up against this and trying to challenge it. If the same people unite and elect Donald Trump to be president, and that election is thwarted due to Democrats cheating, there'll be an explosion in America. Now, we don't have the option in Britain. You've talked about reform there, Pat. We don't have the option in Britain to vote for a party which challenges this woke agenda. The Tories are pretending that they challenge it, but they brought all this woke agenda in. They brought in gay marriage. They brought in transgender rights. They've empowered the immigrants. They've empowered the takeover of our country. The Tories are just bluffing all the time. Now, if someone in Western Europe, any political party, it could be the AfD, it could be National Rally, comes to a position where they're going to actually get power, we're going to see what will the establishment do then. I mean, once their failure to control the narrative has been exposed, what will they do then? You'll see the hard face of the state. Because not only do we have the people like the FBI and the CIA in America who are now going around and visiting patriots and warning them, we also have the same people in this country and the same laws. And if the establishment is truly challenged, they will use the coercive state to stop us. This is the tyranny that we live in now. People have got to wake up to the reality. If you live in a tyranny, you cannot change what the elite are doing. When they're on the path of destruction, you can't turn it round. They prevent you from turning it round. They're leading Britain on a path to destruction, just as Biden is leading America on a path to destruction. They're going to replace us. They're going to take away our freedom. There's a real danger inherent here. And we have to realize that these people they're not Democrats. They're communist totalitarians, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what's going on in America. There's literally millions of people flooding across the border. We're talking probably more people than maybe 5 combined populations of European countries going across the border into a so-called country called United States of America. And, it's coming to a crossroads, the whole thing. The only way they're going to be able to stop Trump, in my opinion, is if they kill him, and that could spark civil unrest, because I just can't see him not winning. Because but if he does win, right, then he's going to get 4 years. What's going to happen after that, Paul? His sons are not going to step.
That 4 years will be crucial to save America, because he can change a lot in 4 years. He can empower the Patriots in a mighty way. Now, you see, is hope in this situation. As I said, X gives us a platform. Rumble gives us a platform. See, in the old days, we used to have newspapers, but people don't read newspapers anymore. We used to listen to the radio, watch TV, but they're like almost like dinosaurs now. You have to be at social media. You have to be at the cutting edge. And this is where we are. This is where our opportunity comes to awaken. I mean, it's really significant that Trump has so much support among young Americans because they're not plugged in to the legacy media. The legacy media now is a total waste of time. I would say to anyone watching this, don't watch the legacy media. All it is left-wing activism. It's a waste of time. Now, the thing is, they want to control the narrative, but they're not competent people. I've talked about this black lesbian woman in America becoming a senator just because she ticks the right boxes. They can't do the job. There's huge debt in America and Britain. I'm talking huge. I'm talking about tens of trillions, which they can no longer finance because interest rates have gone up. They can't even pay the interest on the debt anymore. It's basically eaten up all the taxes. So they're in an economic straitjacket. We're facing an economic recession. They're facing hostility from the populations. Everyone knows things are going wrong and we're going the wrong way. But we have got to be the people to point this out. Go on, John.
Sorry, I'm just going to interject. So, if people are nosy on what's happening at the Conservative Conference, they're talking about the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. And they have been talking about that for 6 months or so. 3 years ago, when Pat started that, nobody was talking about it. I'm not saying that we're directly linked to it, but we've done videos and demos and stuff like that with that banner. And 2 years ago, we had that at the Conservative Conference, and nobody was saying it then, and we had that banner out. But now that is all the talk. So I'm not saying it's directly to do with us. It's because people are talking about it because we went out publicising it. Otherwise, nobody, it won't be mentioned with the Tories at the moment. So, you know, our stuff's working, our shit is working out, as they would say. It's working well. But the cancellation, we've got to be careful. We really got to be careful. We've got to take to other platforms. Rumble is holding a bit of a resistance against the globalists right now. Rumble is an island on its own in a massive sea of conspiracy and corruption. And Rumble is there on its own. Other platforms have tried, but they've not lasted. And the way of it to go is we've got to get into platforms, got to get into decrypting our platforms and stuff like that so they can't be shut down. But yeah, go on, carry on, Paul.
Yeah, let me just interject there. So yeah, the Tory Party conference, we was there 2 years ago, like John said. We had our massive banner, exit the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. And ironically, I went back on the train after, and there were some young Conservatives on the train, very kind of snobby, kind of upper class. And I wanted to know what they thought about it. And they were very dismissive. Oh, it's not a big problem. I know people in Serco, he said to me. I said, listen, mate, this is going to turn into a disaster. And it has. And ironically, also, 3 weeks later after that, we had our banner. All of the Conservative MPs saw our banner. David Amas was murdered by somebody who entered this country as refugees. The Somalian Islamist went into his surgery and stabbed him to death. So they would have seen that banner, and they would have also linked that. Oh, hold on a minute, you know, these people, they are genuine refugees. They qualify. I don't want them here. I don't want any more coming here. I don't want no more people getting citizenship in this country. We're full up, and we need to preserve our country. So you've had the Liverpool bombing. He was a failed asylum seeker. You had the failed Afghan bombing on Parsons Green Tube Station. Salman Abedi, the Manchester bombing.
The Reading murderer.
Sorry?
The Reading murderer killed 3 LGBT people, failed asylum seeker.
Yeah. There's been a few, and not to mention all the rapes and sexual assaults. But that's not even the real reason. The real reason is we shouldn't be giving foreigners citizenship anymore because we're going to become a minority. It's very simple. But like I say, those four parties, UKIP, Reform, Heritage and Reclaim, they will not say enough's enough. We need to stop it. Our party does say that. We say it openly. We'll go to the Conservative conference to tell them. And now they're talking about our main campaign issue, which was to leave the UN 1951 Refugee Convention. Over to you, Paul.
Since 1997, when Tony Blair opened the floodgates, immigration went up from 50,000 per annum to 500,000 per annum. Since then, 14 million people have entered this country, this small island. 14 million. Of those, 80% have stayed permanently on government support, on benefits. They've milked our education system. They've milked our National Health Service. They've milked every benefit they can get. They've flooded our social housing. This is a catastrophe, and it's changing our country, and we financed it largely through debt, through borrowing. That borrowing now has got to be paid back because of inflation. Interest rates have gone through the roof, and we can no longer afford to borrow. So what is the government doing, the Tory government? They're imposing extra tax burdens, tax on the British. And when Labour get in power, they're going to put taxes through the roof. This is strangling our economy. This is a really serious threat to our future. Everything we value in these islands is on the edge now of the abyss. Everything. Our freedom, our prosperity, our security, our identity. It's all on the edge, about to fall off the edge and collapse. We're about to go into the abyss, into anarchy. And if we're going to survive, we've got to get together as a people. The Tories are not going to save us. Labour are going to make it even worse. The Liberals are just the same. The petty nationalist parties like the Plaid Cymru and SNP, they're all globalists. They're all globalist, and they're all in on this racket to destroy our country. If you value everything you have in this country, you need to take a stand now. Only we, the British people, can save Britain. Obviously, if Trump gets elected, it will be a massive help, but he's going to need allies in this country. What I would say to people who are listening to this is, do not be complacent. Do not expect other people to do the dirty work. Do not think that someone's going to come along, a knight in shining armor, and save you. Take action yourself. Join the National Housing Party of the UK. Let's make this a mighty organ for truth, for freedom of speech, for the defense of our nation and our people. Let's make this party the party that in history will be the one that saved the British nation. Our nation goes back certainly over 1,000 years. The Britons have been here maybe for 10,000 years. My family have been here for 10,000 years in the British Isles, because there's no real border in the British Isles. We're not in this as England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales. We're in this as the British. We're in this as the Europeans, Western civilization. We've got to come together to defend what's important. We, the people of the British Isles, have got to make a stand and say to the globalists, the elitists who are running this country and driving it into the dirt, we've had enough. We will not take it anymore. We want a new government, a new governing class. We want new policies in place. We want strong borders. We want a country that puts Britain first, puts the British first. Just like the MAGA army in America has risen up. In America, there's a real battle going on. We have to join the battle in this country. We have to take a stand. If you're complacent, if you do nothing, you're just going to watch us go down and down and down into this abyss. We're just going to fall off the edge. There's no future. No future for ourselves, no future for our children, no future for our grandchildren. It's these people, let's forget the gaslighting. Let's forget the Stockholm syndrome. These people are committed to our destruction, and we have to take action to reverse this, to turn things round. The boat is heading for the rocks. and we can see the rocks now. We're about to smash into them. We've got to turn this boat round. We've got to turn the SS Britannia around and save this nation. And this is what the National Housing Party of the UK is all about. Get on board, join up, become a candidate. We speak the truth. We're not like Reform. We're not like Heritage. We're not like UKIP. We don't pussyfoot around. We don't pretend that we still want to welcome genuine refugees. No more refugees. No more permanent settlement immigration. No more submission to the United Nations. Let's assert that this is our land. This is our heritage. This is our inheritance. And we want to protect it. We want to preserve what's left, and we want to pass it on to our children. This is our duty as British people, and we have to take a stand. Pat.
Yeah. Great speech, Paul. Great speech. Yeah, so you can easily join the party on the website. £11 unwaged, £22 wage. It's not a lot of money. Even if you want to sit in the background and you can't really get involved, please join, because it's a great moral support to us all. We're all fighting hard. You know, we've got a big thing happening in the Wirral on Thursday. We're going to start our campaign. We've got 5-6 people meeting up to go leafleting. If you would like to come along with us, please email us. Emails are on the screen there. Say hello to the 2 members who joined yesterday if they're watching. I want to say hello to everyone on Rumble who's watching, because we want the Rumble channel to grow. It's doing really well, and they don't restrict it like YouTube do and Twitter are doing. So they're open to nationalism. Like Nick Fuentes is probably the most banned person in the West, and he's flourishing on Rumble. That's just an example. But I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Irish Rose, Toffee, Craig, Humble Crier, Martin, Serena, Jojo Gizmo, Chris Thornley, Rob, Paul Evangeli, hello Paul, John Skidmore,
Irish Flame,
Irish Rose. Yeah, so over to you, John.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, your donations and money is paid for 10,000 leaflets, and we're starting handing some out in the Wirral on Thursday. So our emails are up there. If you want to join us, let us know. I'll be in the Wirral for most of the day from early, actually. So get in contact with us. And the rest of the 10,000 leaflets are going to be they're spearheaded up for Leicester. So we'll give you more details on that. But that's what we're up to this week.
Anyone in the Midlands, please get in touch, because we're going to be starting that campaign soon in Leicester, and we may be having a meeting there as well.
Yeah. So that's Leicester. You can email us. We've got an admin email as well as mine and Pat's email. But yeah, we're doing well. We're doing the right thing, and we're speaking out as well. We're speaking out. I'm always busy. I've got a meeting with the council tomorrow with local residents all in Wood on a 6-year issue they've been fighting. So that's tomorrow evening, 4 p.m. So yeah, we're busy all the time, and yeah, we want you to join. If you have any stories, if you can write or anything like that, pass us your stories. We could put them on our website. Anything. Obviously, housing is a big thing, and I've seen a couple of comments in here tonight about people being on housing waiting list for more than 30 years. I want to see, I want an article, I want something written down off you to come to us about the state of your housing, because it's an absolute disgrace that you should be on an housing waiting list for more than 5 years or whatever. It's an absolute disgrace. It never used to be like this, and it didn't. So if you've got any stories for us, especially on the housing issue, immigration, get them to us, please, in an email. Pat?
Yeah. So a quick update on my campaign. I'm out knocking on doors every week. I'm getting lots of people who want to vote for me. You know, listen, guys, that's all we've got to do is get on the ballot paper, and people will vote for you. They don't want to vote for the Lib Lab Con anymore. You know, I've in the space of 3 weeks, I've got 10 people on a postal vote application, because they said they're definitely going to vote for me. That's what we do. We get them on a postal vote to make sure they vote on the day. So it's all going well, upwards and onwards for NHPUK. And Jesus Christ is King. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Pat. Any last words, Paul?
Yeah. Well, we're not just a party in cyberspace. We'll be out leafleting on the Wirral on Thursday. We're standing in local elections. We want to win local seats, and then we want to challenge eventually for the general election. We want to make an impact on this nation. And we just want to remember before we go, one of our starlet patriots from Scotland, a girl called Eileen, she passed away last year. No, she passed away last week, sorry. She was a lovely woman, but she did a duty for this country. Life is only short. You have 70 years if you're lucky. You might get 80 if you're really lucky. But you've got to do something in those years. You've got to stand up for what is right. Now, Arlene stood up for what is right. She was a beautiful woman, and she was a great colleague to us all. And she passed away. May she rest in peace and rise in glory. She did a duty. God bless her. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be rising up and watching us with her spirit. True patriot indeed. But yeah, please join the National Housing Party. We're in the Wirral on Thursday. Get in contact with me. My email's up there and my phone number is on screen. Get in contact with me in the Wirral, and I'll be there from early. I'm having a breakfast at Hamilton Square, Wetherspoons. That's where I've earmarked. That's where I'm going. So, but yeah, I'll be there early. So get in contact with us. And thank you very much, guys. And we'll see everybody next week. Next week we will see you. Oh, I'm just gonna say it's Labour Party conference as well next week, actually, in Liverpool.
Again. We'll be there, John. We'll be there.
There might be a chance me and Paul will turn up with our suits on, trying to get in somehow and doing some videos. So watch out for that. That'll be next week in Merseyside. But good night, everyone, and thank you very much, and God bless everyone.